the shareholders and the partners that we have, they're a bit aggressive, they're a bit challenging and stuff, but they're adding tremendous value. They're opening our eyes on something that we haven't seen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ikcon. I come from an investment banking background. I started actually with financial management consulting back in the States, straight from college. And after 6 years, I decided to move back to the region. And I switched careers from consulting to investment banking and private equity. Deployed roughly $600 million in the past 14 years in F&B, healthcare, and education, industrial sectors as well. I've done a lot of personal investments on throughout the past 10 years as well. Met my best friend, partner, and co-founder Kareem in London Business School while we were doing our MBA back in 2009. And I invested in his business in 2016 or 17. And then, given his background and food operation and production, and my background in fundraising, growth, dressing the bride for exit, we looked at each other. We've been monitoring the cloud kitchen space for a while. We thought we're perfect fit for this business. So it really was magical what we're discovering, given our background. It was a no-brainer for me to leave the PE world and decided to launch Ikcon with Kareem. We launched and first order went out in February 2019. Today, we're a 25 months old company, closed Series A 3 months ago. I've grown to 650 employees, 65 brands, 15 locations across the UAE, and anytime we should be operational in KSA now. It's been a very, very, very exciting journey for both of us, and it's definitely the best decision I've ever made and throughout my career to launch a company like Ikcon.
Perfect. And we've also got Kareem. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, James. Thanks, Khalid, for the the full story of where we are today. My background is food operations, food production and operations. It's actually where I started my career out of university, working in agriculture, in packing facilities and farming and logistics. And throughout the years, I was also doing a lot of angel investing on the side in different kinds of sectors and spaces, like healthcare and clean energy and e-commerce. But most of my angel investments were gravitating towards F&B. And one day I just kind of snapped and said, why do I keep writing checks to other people? I need to kind of invest in myself. And what am I most passionate about? It's basically the food industry. So I started a company 5 years ago now, as Khalid mentioned, that's focused on catering, meal plans, B2B food production, co-packing. And that's the business that Khalid invested in a few years ago. And then on the back of the time that we spent there, we obviously started monitoring this space. And then we decided to hire a very capable management team to lead that business, which is off on its own and growing, but definitely not growing the way Ikcon's growing. That business grows at X% every year, and Ikcon grows at X% every month. That's the difference.
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting time for yourselves, but also the space within the UAE. So a few things to jump into here. And one of them is that you both mentioned you've come from that sort of finance background as well, where you've had experiences in whether it be angel investing or the PE world. So how has that really set you up for running the business yourselves?
If I'll speak myself, so a lot of cash and F&B transactions, being the casual dining, the QSR, and different kind of F&B. So I'm no stranger to the F&B space. What value it has added to what we're doing today. If you're familiar with the private equity holders, we go in, we acquire something for $100 and we plan to sell it for $300, $400. This is where the strategy kicks in, the business plan, the monitoring, incentivizing people, having the right approach, methodological approach to build a plan and work backward how to achieve it. And that has added tremendous value. And how I'm leading Ikcon today with Kareem, and how we've exceeded every single KPI and metric that we have set for ourselves and we have presented and approved by the board. This is the value add. Of course, I think another one that has added tremendous value from my experience and background is the fundraising expertise. We've raised a tremendous amount of money to date. We just closed a large ticket size for Series A. We'll be announcing next week throughout the media outlets. But we believe in what we're doing, James, and we really believe it's the future. And we really believe that Ikcon and the space is disrupting the F&B space, at the same time is offering a very attractive value proposition, whether to the end consumer or to the restaurant partners that we partner with.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you've had some incredible growth in the lifespan of the business, which is amazing for you as founders and great for everyone to see. But what are some of the real growing pains when you're going through such rapid growth?
So I'll let Kareem answer first how his background has helped us to get where we are today, and then we'll talk about the challenges, if that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the most important thing in F&B at the end of the day is health and food safety. Nothing else matters. That's number one. So you start with that in mind, and then you work your way backwards in terms of standard operating procedures, making sure you put the right people in the right places, making sure at the end of the day, the culture of the company is one that's driven by a hospitality mindset. So even though we're not a restaurant that is serving people coming in to dine, and even though we're not a hotel that's selling rooms and we're invisible to the end consumer, the point is for everybody to have that hospitality mindset every day and to have a whatever it takes attitude when it comes to making sure that everything going out the door is perfect, and whatever is not perfect, having a really good excuse for why it's not, and obviously being super ready, super available to remedy things immediately as and when they come up. So that's the most important thing that we instill in everybody that we hire. So I think from in terms of challenges, it's just always making sure that the culture that we had when we started with one brand, one kitchen, and 6 people continues to permeate throughout the organization when we're no longer the ones who are interviewing every single person, hiring those people, assessing those people, doing the evaluations. It's just about making sure that whatever the values, the important procedures, the things that need to happen in terms of training are happening in a systemized way so that everybody knows that they are being observed, graded, and nothing slips through the cracks. That's really the only way in our business, at least. So that's it from my side in terms of scaling challenges. Khalid?
You're right. So I think the challenges, 2 main challenges: human capital and how to attract top-notch, highly motivated candidates to do the job. We are working 12 to 15 hours a day. You need it, given this is a new space and a new industry and still at infancy stages, you wouldn't find a lot of experts in this space. So you have to put together the right team that can learn very quickly. So I'll give you an example. We just hired a chief strategy officer that comes from, and we'll be announcing this next month when he joins. He comes from a very well-known top four advisory firms. And we managed to recruit him to join Ikcon. It was a long process, James. It was a very long process, and it took a lot of convincing. And he wanted to understand business model. Fantastic. He needs to understand what he's coming into. But he came in, and at a very reasonable package. Of course, one of the highest or most expensive in Ikcon, but for him, it's for us is reasonable. And we put the proper ESOP in place. So we have the proper ESOP in place today. And those are one of the challenges that I faced through fundraising for Series A, is where the new investors wanted to challenge the ESOP pool. And it's like, this is the only thing I'm not going to negotiate on. This is how we attract talent, and this is how we get the proper team in place. So I'd say human capital is number one challenge. Fundraising, we went through, James, ups and not so many ups. I wouldn't say downs, no, because that we've been very fortunate. But when we got hit with the pandemic back in March and April, we were torn. Do we slow down our operations? Do we slow down our expansion plan, given that we were supposed to launch Series A and we didn't? And we decided to actually accelerate our growth, because this is our opportunity to prove the business model. And I believe we made the right decision. We managed to get by, and we launched Series A in September, a few months late, or October, and we managed to close it in 3 months. So talent has helped us get there. And I would say this is the main challenge. Fundraising is not a challenge. Technology, it's an exciting part of what we're doing, and it's the future of what we're doing, whether being the kitchen operation optimization technology side or the machine learning data analytics side. All boils down to talent. And I think this is the biggest challenge that we have, and we don't settle for less. We either right caliber to fill the gap, and we need to be smart and to practice a good foresight. So we might not need today a chief strategy officer for a startup that's 2 years old, but we're growing at a very fast pace, and we need to practice a good foresight where we need to anticipate what's needed. Now we're looking for a CFO. We're looking for multiple high positions to help us accelerate the growth and act like the company we want it to be.
So there's a couple of things I'd love to pick up on in that. One of which is that decision when the pandemic first hit of whether you should hold off or whether you should really push on. So you touched on that. So talk to me a bit around that decision-making process and how you finally came to the decision of, you know what, we should actually really go for this now. Now is our time.
You're taking me back to the rough days. Remember, Kareem, we were in the board room, and we had a split decision on what to do. Kareem wanted to slow down and to conserve cash, given that we didn't have our runway wasn't for too long. And I realized that if we that could be the conservative side, but we're not in a conservative space. My thoughts were, in order for me to raise funds successfully, we need to show momentum. We need to show how resilient we are given the pandemic situation, given how everyone is letting their staff go versus we're hiring. I couldn't sleep at night because we were like, of course, we were not panicking, thank God, but no one knew whether. Now we were walking with confidence. Kareem and I, we know we have a plan, we're executing, we're walking with confidence. Back then, it was up in the air. This could have not work, and but luckily it did work. So it was a tough decision.
And it sounds like you were quite bullish then going into these investor meetings where some of them perhaps were saying you should conserve cash a little bit, and you were pushing on that actually making these big hires was the right move, and you wouldn't negotiate on that. So what's your advice for other founders that are facing similar things where they are so certain of their vision, but perhaps investors are telling them otherwise?
You have to listen, James. I believe, so I started my career in financial and management consulting. And this is the first time I get asked this question, by the way. And what I've learned throughout my 5-6 years career in Accenture, that I've learned from experience, that every single project I was assigned to, we go in and we pitch and we win the biggest contract. And the solution is not with Accenture. The solution is actually sitting with the people who work in that company. So we go there, we listen to them, we get their feedback, and then we formulate a solution based on everybody's answers. So, and feedback. So, of course, Kareem and I, we have a vision, we have a drive, we have an end goal to reach, but we definitely do value, and this is my advice to the founders, value the feedback you receive from others. Funny enough, Kareem and I were about this today. Some of the shareholders and the partners that we have, they're a bit aggressive, they're a bit challenging and stuff, but they're adding tremendous value. They're opening our eyes on something that we haven't seen. So listen with an open mind. Take your time to analyze, and we're talking about big decisions here. We're not talking to day-to-day operations. And then follow your heart and follow your gut feeling. I'm not sure, what would you say, Kareem?
Yeah, listen, I mean, that's definitely, Khalid, what we've been kind of living through for the past 2 years. So what you're saying is, you know, the exactly sort of all the things that we've had to adjust around. I would only add to that you might have a vision, and it's good to have strong conviction in your vision, but you really have to be super nimble, because the only way that you can get to the best result or the best outcome or whatever is, again, to accept feedback. And the only way to get good feedback is to surround yourself with really top-notch people, whether it's people that you're working with, or whether it's an advisory board, or whether it's your investors, because as Khalid mentioned, we really do get challenged, and we do get kind of pushback on certain things. And at the end of the day, you always know that everybody's working towards that best outcome, whatever it may be. So regardless of how you think about your business and how you think it needs to be done, you just need to be ready to, I don't want to use the word pivot, because that word gets overused a lot. You just have to be nimble and agile and be ready to kind of throw your assumptions out the door and test new assumptions. Because at the end of the day, where we were 25 months ago, none of us, like neither of us, would have ever dreamed that we would be where we are today. And given how fast things have gone and how much things have evolved, especially over the past year with the pandemic and the way we had to rethink the operations of the business, we don't know what it's going to be like in 12 months. But some of the hard decisions you make early on really set the foundation for you to accelerate your growth and be able to scale later on, which is really kind of where we feel we are now because of those hard decisions earlier.
And over those 25 months, so much must have changed internally to say that you've scaled at the rate you have. So how has that reflected in your roles as founders within the business? How has that evolved over time?
So the way Kareem and I operate and being co-founders, out of the 675 Iconers that we have, I manage 25, he manages 650. So the big pressure is on him. And because he's managing the full operations. And of course, it has changed tremendously. He manages the operations, the supply chain, the chef, the cooks, the call center, the brands, the complaints, the etc. What have changed from my end? I used to manage everything else alone, from marketing to legal to fundraising to finance to growth to business development. I used to manage it all. Today, the way it was evolved, luckily we have full divisions in place between marketing, growth, finance, strategy, technology. Legal is outsourced for now. So I had to build those departments, and I got to make sure that they're in safe hand, and you got to make sure that they're performing better than what I used to manage. Now my responsibilities become a bit bigger than this, where we have to do the partnerships at a larger scale, continue to deal with existing and future investors, and make sure that the is catching up with our operations, and make sure that I coordinate with Kareem once or twice a week at least to see we are on plan of achieving our target. We're in plan to achieving our growth. I meet with each department head to make sure that everyone's aligned. Very detailed dashboard and KPIs that we review on a weekly basis. So we're trying to split my time smartly between making sure everything is done, everyone is tracked. Luckily, we have the right infrastructure from dashboards and reporting. Where now it's time to focus on bigger partnerships, on fundraising, on different structures.
And within that, it certainly sounds like then with the departments being put in place and how that's evolving your roles, and obviously making the big hires now that you are making, it sounds like you're very much moving from a founder-led business to actually a leadership team-led business. So what's that transition like, and how difficult is it giving up, I suppose, control of those certain departments?
Go ahead, Kareem, sorry. Go ahead.
James, I was just going to say, I'll tell you from my side, like in the early days, with a much smaller team and a much smaller setup, there were many times I had to basically put food in my car and deliver it myself, right? And that wasn't one day or once or twice. It was many, many, many times. Dealing with end consumers on the other end of the line for whatever issue. I mean, those are the small things that you think about sort of in the early days that you kind of have to go through because you don't have this funding or infrastructure. But it's also really good to go through those things because now no one can really mislead you on anything because you've lived it and you know exactly what it's like. So that's what I was going to say from my side, which kind of dovetails into what you're talking about in terms of rounding out the leadership team. Khalid?
Yeah, exactly. And what was it like to give up control of those departments? Music to my ears, because I wanted to give it to someone who does a better job than what I do. So out of the 5 departments, I'll tell you from now, 3 departments that I'm 100% super comfortable and I can go to sleep at night with a big smile on my face. There are 2 I'm still not confident, and I have to be involved and monitoring very closely, but most probably I have to make a change in management, and this is the hard decisions you have to make. You need, from a leadership position, you must elevate the people game. You must motivate, and you must add value to their performance, to their spirit, to their motivation. My office is a glass office, open door always, and there's a big sign that says mindset is everything. And you can help people get there, but sometimes there are limitations. And this is where you make the big decision, because it's not about an individual, it's about the company, and it's about the shareholders, and it's about the image of the company. So I'm ready to let go once I feel that this department is in safe hands. And I'm sure this is applicable to Kareem, because within his department, there are like zillion other departments. So he's actually going much further and deeper in this.
Perfect. And going forward then, you've achieved so much in such a short period of time. What are the big goals now over the next sort of 12 months or so?
To continue growth and accelerate technology, for sure. It's time to deliver on our technology. As Kareem said, we're growing at a very fast pace business, and we need to continue to grow it. We are focusing on KSA and other countries. That doesn't mean we're not continuing to grow in our UAE. Continue the growth from top line perspective, from brands perspective, from technology perspective, to continue to attract the best talent and to continue to attract the best investors as well. From Kareem's perspective, I think he has a lot of other stuff to continue to focus on in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everything Khalid said is the most important aspects of what we're being measured on as founders, at least from the stakeholders that matter to us, which is the investors. But obviously, we have other stakeholders that are just as important, and I would say that the two main stakeholders that are just as important are the brand owners, and those are the ones that trust us with their business because we operate on behalf of other brands, and also the end consumer. And that's the interesting thing about how sort of Ikcon works, is that we're a B2B business, but we're also a B2C business. So from our perspective, from my perspective, it's taking care of those two pillars, and the only way to do that and continue to do that for the coming years to just really focus on operational excellence and keep trying to improve.
Well, it certainly sounds like an exciting time. So for those listening, where can they find out more about Ikcon?
So our website is ikcon.com. It's ikcon.com. I'm not on social media, which I know is terrible, but Khalid is the king of social media, so he'll tell you.
I have 300 followers. I'm not the king of social media. But our brands.
We do have an Ikcon page, right?
We do have an Ikcon page, Ikcon official on Instagram, ikcon.com, IKCON. We are on LinkedIn as well. And if you just type Ikcon on Google, you'll find so much about Ikcon.